You can't afford to lose yourself trying to earn somebody who doesn't care to be in your life. One of the biggest struggles that a lot of my clients come to me with after going through breakups and dealing with situationships and losing people is feeling a sense of they lost themselves. They don't know who they are. They don't know how to move forward in life without a specific person. I know for myself, I used to go through the same thing. We spend so much time trying to earn people, trying to force people to be in our lives, trying to, do the right things essentially. We're always like in this performative state of trying to make the right decision, trying to please them, trying to get them to value us, trying to get them to like us more so that they don't leave, so that they'll always be around and stuff, and that, they'll always be able to be in our lives. And so we do any and everything in order to keep them around. And what I noticed is that for a long time, I was almost essentially becoming somebody I wasn't. I was becoming who I thought they wanted me to be or who I thought I needed to be in order to keep these people around. And what I had to realize is that that's not in my best interest, because in the end, I get in a performative state, but I also end up losing myself, my sense of who I am and, who I am without this person. It's so easy to wrap your identity up in your relationships and, your partners or your friends and, who they expect you to be and who they need you to show up as in order for them to be at peace or in order for them to be happy. And sometimes we can get so invested into being that character or playing that role or, knowing the do's and don'ts in order to keep people satisfied that we essentially start betraying ourselves. And I had to realize this after a long time, because I used to be a person where I would try and force. I used to be a person where I was trying to be a people pleaser, where I would do any and everything in order to try and keep this person in my life. And it ended up in the end costing me my relationship with myself. And I had to rebuild my whole sense of self-esteem. I had to rebuild my whole sense of self-worth. I had to rebuild, knowing my own value, because a lot of my value, a lot of my self-worth, a lot of my self-esteem was invested in, receiving love from that person or receiving validation from that person or, being on good terms with that person. And the moment that they stepped away from my life, I didn't know who I was, because I felt I wasn't good enough, because the person I had been performing as didn't get me what I was performing for. And so I was putting on a performance. I was always in the state of trying to do the right thing, trying to make the right decision, and trying to keep this person around. But in the end, I failed. And so now I don't know who I am, because I've gotten this state of I was performing and I became this version of myself that wasn't really me, but was who I thought they wanted me to be. And in the end, it still wasn't enough. And so now I don't know how to move forward. Now I don't feel a sense of purpose. Now I don't know who I am to me, because I invested so much of who I was into their opinion towards me. And real quick, if this is something that you find yourself struggling with in your life and struggling to apply to your life, being able to show up as your real self, and you feel like you're constantly someone who's betrayed yourself, or maybe you're in a season of your life going through a breakup and you don't know who you are anymore, be sure to check out my one-on-one coaching down below in the description and see if it's something that could be for you. But anyways, back to the video. And this is why it's so important to kind of do self-improvement to an extent, to understand who you are, what you value, what you want in your life, the type of people you do and don't want around you, and even just paying attention, having the self-awareness to know, when you do or don't want to do something, to know what the type of people you want around you, and the what you basically stand for in life. Because I feel like when I was so lost and I was just emotionally moving and kind of moving in that almost like adaptation kind of person. Some of us, we know how to adapt to people in order to, please them, or in order to play passive, in order to keep the peace. It's like we get around certain people and we know how to adapt in order to, keep things at peace, basically. But I learned that I was betraying myself a lot in my life, because I was, again, trying to keep the peace often just keeps the external peace, but causes internal chaos on the inside. And so I had to become a lot more self-aware of what I stood for in my life, what I was and wasn't going for, what I did and didn't like, and it caused me to have to start calling out people on their actions. It caused me to have to start saying no to people and becoming okay with the fact that not everybody's gonna appreciate the real me. Not everybody gonna want to deal with the real me. And that's okay, but I would rather lose people than lose my relationship with myself, because in the end, you'll never be at peace when you're constantly performing for the world, because you'll internally always be suffering. You'll internally always be at chaos. You'll internally always be vulnerable to the outer world's decisions and whether they choose you or not, or whether they decide to stay with you or not. And that will always be able to disrupt your peace. So when you invest your happiness, when you invest your peace, when you invest your self-worth, your self-esteem, your opinion of yourself in the external world, the moment that they turn their backs on you, the moment that they decide to leave your life, the moment that they decide, they don't like you or you're not good enough for them, now that determines how you feel about yourself, because you revolve your entire purpose and your entire existence and your entire person and who you are and who you've been showing up as being enough for them, rather than becoming comfortable in who you actually are, instead of loving who you actually are and getting to a place where it's like, yeah, this is me, this is who I am, this is who I'm going to show up as, and you can either choose me or not. And you're gonna find out, like, a lot of people aren't gonna like you. I try and come on here every single day or every time I record, and I try and be my authentic self. I try my hardest to be my full authentic self, my real self. And what I realize is that a lot of people don't like me. A lot of people, they feel I'm young. A lot of people may not like the way I talk. I may not talk the most proper. I might not say all the craziest and biggest words, but I'm very real. I'm very vulnerable. I just say what's kind of on my mind without going through a filter of how it's perceived. And I understand, like, there's going to be some people who like that and then some people who don't. But the people who do appreciate that version of me, they value me a lot. And those are the ones who continuously watch my videos. Those are the ones who, want to get to know me on a deeper level and reach out to me and appreciate my videos a lot more and are, consistent and actually see progress from the videos because it resonates. And so I understand you have to get to a place where it's like, I understand myself is not for everybody, but myself and who I truly am is for somebody. And I would much rather show up as my real self to be for the people who need me to be who I am, rather than try to be a version of me that's not actually my authentic self to, have as many people around you. And I'm kind of getting away from relationships right now, but you guys understand what I'm saying. Like, in relationships, you're gonna find yourself, like, showing up for yourself is gonna cost you a lot of people. Choosing yourself and choosing to respect yourself and choosing to not, again, be a people pleaser, choosing to not always just accommodate the other people's wants and needs and stuff, and actually, like, choosing yourself at times, choosing to respect yourself, not abandoning who you are in order to satisfy other people. Like, that's gonna cost you in the end, because you're gonna realize, like, a lot of people don't like you. They like the feeling that you bring to them for what you do for them, essentially. And the moment you stop showing up in the way that they want you to show up, the moment you stop doing the exact things that they want you to do, let's just say, for example, they ask you for favors and, you've always been a yes man. You've always said, yes, I'll help you here. Yes, I'll help you do this. Yes, I'll help you with your problems. The moment that you stop always putting other people's needs and other people in front of you, you're going to lose people, because some people no longer will see you as valuable to their life. They'll see you as useless because you no longer are essentially benefiting them in some way. And that's called conditional love. And honestly, I don't want to be around people who only love me conditionally. I don't want to be around people who only love me when I'm constantly saying yes. I don't want to be around people who always want me to just agree with them and see from their side and, whatever they say goes. Like, no, at some point I have to choose myself. And I understand choosing myself is sometimes going to cost me other people, because that's not who they want me to be. And that's why I feel like it's so important to just spend time with yourself. I feel like a lot of times we don't spend time with ourselves to actually get clear on who we want to be for ourselves. What would it even look like to say no? Why am I afraid to say no? Like, asking the real questions of, why do I care what people think of me? And then getting more, when you get a better understanding of why you fear the things in which you do, why you fear certain outcomes, whether it's rejection, whether it's people leaving your life, then it's like, okay, how can I provide this to myself? How can I learn to show up for myself in a way to where I don't need validation, where I don't fear rejection, where losing people in my life doesn't necessarily mean something about me? And when you can do that, when you can figure all that out, now you're no longer loving from a place of insecurity. Now you're no longer loving and showing up in the world as a person who's trying to, earn other people or validate other people or keep the peace and, essentially showing up from a place of fear. You know, a lot of us, we live our lives from a place of fear. We make passive decisions. We agree to the majority, and we're afraid to object. We're afraid to go against the grain because of how it looks, and you know, the opinions other people will speak. But when you get grounded in knowing who you are, when you get grounded in understanding, you know, going against the grain, whether people reject me, whether people like me or not, doesn't necessarily mean something about myself, and you're no longer afraid of losing people because you're also good on your own, then it's like, okay, I don't need to abandon who I am or betray who I am in order to satisfy all these people. Because in the end, you're never going to be able to satisfy everybody. And when you try so hard to satisfy everybody, it disappoints you and hurts you a lot more, when in the end, you trying to satisfy them still isn't enough, because they still decide to not like you. They still decide to walk away, or they still decide that you're not good enough for them. Now, the moral of the video is, stop abandoning who you are. Don't lose yourself in who you are trying to earn other people. Make sure you're staying grounded in making decisions that actually align with your values, that actually align with your morals, that actually align with your respect and your love for yourself. And yes, those decisions will sometimes cost you people. It will cost people to leave your life. But think about it. In the end, do you really want people around you that you can't be yourself around, and you'll always have to be a character in order to please them? But you know, I love and appreciate you guys as always, and I hope the video taught you a thing or two. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notices, as well as check out my one-on-one coaching down below in the description. Catch you guys in the next video.